So the object I've chosen is Glyptolepis, which is a genus of fossil fish. As well, really you can't see it here, but it's a mishmash. It's not a nice fossil as you might, you can't really see a head, you can't really see a body, you can't really discern what it is. It's not particularly the best example of Glyptolepis in the world. It's not particularly important Glyptolepis. So on the one hand, it's kind of a very boring, visually it's very boring. Esoterically, it's kind of fragments of a fossil fish that went extinct a long time ago. But actually, it's this stuff, not the stuff that you normally see on display. It makes up most of natural history museums. So traditionally, we kind of say that these specimens are important for scientific research, but actually, realistically, if you think about the millions of specimens that natural history museums have in their stores, most of them aren't used year to year, within 5 years, 50 years, 100 years. So in fact, a lot of our fossil specimens that we have like this, which are, underwhelming, not especially interesting or aesthetically nice, haven't been looked at for over 100 years, if they've been looked at all. So maybe they were just collected and then kind of chucked in a drawer. And the reasons why this kind of enshrines the Grant Museum for me is because I see it as our job as curators to make objects like this interesting. This is one of the fossils that I've featured in a blog series I write called Underwhelming Fossil Fish of the Month, which plays on the fact that normally you expect to see fantastic, amazing things in museums, and that's the kind of thing you see on display, the kind of things exhibitions are about, but it isn't typical of actually the majority of stuff that makes up the museum. And so actually by looking at this and by kind of tongue-in-cheek exploring, is this the most boring fossil we have, and every month we try and find a more boring one. But actually when we look at it and kind of go through the process of, well, what is it? How did somebody identify this? What use does it have in society? What use does it have in research? How particularly well is it preserved? And by focusing on some of our worst, some of our least inspiring objects to beyond the very esoteric scientific audience, we actually get it's actually a way of engaging people with the collection in a way that if I were to kind of write a series on this is very important because I love paleontology and I think this is particularly important, it wouldn't work because people would say that's just evangelism. But actually by kind of talking to people in a very social way and kind of flipping the expectations of the museum, we get a lot of kind of engagement with these kind of blog posts. And then off the back of this I found out that lecturers at UCL use that blog series in their teaching to talk about museum interpretation. Also I've done kind of stand-up comedy events on that blog series. We've had exhibitions about kind of uninspiring objects. We've done things like the micrarium, which is really making something out of particularly uninspiring, on the face of it, uninspiring collection. So for me this really enshrines the Grant Museum because as a whole, not particularly exceptional. So we don't have any biggest, oldest, largest, rarest at all. It's a fairly kind of standard, typical quotidian natural history collection, but it's what we do with it and what we bring to it and our interpretation and our enthusiasm which makes it an award-winning, innovative and kind of leading natural history museum despite its kind of size.